We have multiple major Toronto Raptors updates as this team continues to be decimated by the injury bug over the course of the season. And tonight is the first game of the NBA Cup for the Toronto Raptors. And our opponents are facing Milwaukee Bucks, and they're dealing with some issues as well. So we'll discuss all of that, including Jakob Poeltl speaking out on some of the recent issues that have been going on with this team, because I've seen a ton of different criticism. Obviously, if you've been watching the videos, I've been fairly positive about how this season's been going, how excited I am about the development of these certain players. But there are some major talks, chatter, discussions about the bad things that are happening. Because obviously, the Toronto Raptors, the worst team in the NBA right now, record-wise. So there's a lot of things on the court that are concerning, that are causing some issues. But Jakob Poeltl kind of broke down why he's not necessarily worried about it, and he's a player on the squad, and it kind of fits a similar sentiment that I've been bringing up out here in the video. So it's an interesting topic, interesting discussion, lots of stuff to break down in this video. But folks, we hit 30,000 subscribers, so I just want to thank everyone that's been tuning into the vids, helping us grow this channel during a season. Yes, it's been filled with losing. Yes, there's been lots of stuff about the Cooper flag, capturing the flag this season for the Toronto Raptors, but it has certainly been a very, very fun start to the season for everyone here watching the channel, has been in this community. So shout out to everyone helping us grow this Raptors Digest channel and send it to the moon. So appreciate every single one of you. But let's dive into the news. Let's dive into what's going on, because the first thing that we have to discuss is about more injury updates. Because what other updates do we get right now for the Toronto Raptors? Because this team has been plagued with the injury bug over the course of the season. Now, it's not just the Raptors. The entire NBA feels like there have been just injury after injury after injury, but the Raptors, obviously being a young, rebuilding team, I don't want to say lacking depth, but lacking experience depth, it's hitting us in a very, very hard front. But now, a guy that we just got back, right, Immanuel Quickley, who's out for a large chunk to start off the season, is now questionable for tomorrow's game against the Milwaukee Bucks with a left elbow sprain. So he's dealing with like a hip pelvic sort of injury before, but now is dealing with a left elbow sprain. And again, we're unsure in terms of the timeline, in terms of the specifics in this regarding IQ, but this just sucks because, again, we invested so much in Immanuel Quickley over the course of the offseason. There was a lot of chat about him improving his game, taking his game to the next level over the course of the offseason, in similar fashion to Gradey Dick. There was a ton of those storylines coming out regarding Immanuel Quickley entering this season. And this year, just when you're dealing with injury after injury after injury, and even in some stretches, right? Like the last couple of games, he hasn't burst onto the scene, absolutely dominated and shook everyone. And it's because he's coming back, just from an injury, try to rush back, get back in the mix, and you got to get a few games to get under your rhythm. And now, even if he's able to play tonight against the Bucks, which it doesn't seem likely with all the reports that are coming out, different language are being used, but basically, if you're dealing now with a left elbow sprain on top of an injury you're already recovering from, it's just really, really hard to find that rhythm, to find that sort of, flow, especially for a point guard who's used to commanding the offense, shooting the three ball, doing all these types of things. So it just sucks because, again, we were so excited to see this new young core that we invested in, IQ, Scottie Barnes, this entire roster. So, be able to go out there in that direction would have been very, very exciting. But it is what it is now, and, more opportunities for guys like Jamal Shead, for Davion Mitchell, who have looked better out there with more opportunities, with more minutes out there during the stretches. But I'm hopeful Immanuel Quickley can just, again, we don't want to rush him back. This is a season that there's not a lot of optimism for a ton of wins, right? Like, the Cooper flag already played this animation in this vid, but, you want to see these young guys get reps, especially players that you invested so much into, like an Immanuel Quickley. But it's not just him in terms of who we have updates for, as I kind of alluded to at the beginning of this one, right? The Bucks are dealing with some issues as well. Damian Lillard just entered concussion protocol and is out Toronto on Tuesday. That's what Shams said. Now, I made this graphic last night before I went to bed, recording here in the morning, but basically, I went back to Shams' Twitter, and it's just, this tweet isn't there, so maybe this is fake news being spread by Shams. It wouldn't be the first time. We had some Damian Lillard Raptors linked, teases from Shams Charania in terms of stuff like that going on there. If you're not familiar, he had a tweet prepared, ready, and actually posted about Damian Lillard going to the Toronto Raptors and quickly deleted it. So, maybe he just loves to toy with the Damian Lillard and Toronto Raptors stuff. That's obviously, that wouldn't make any sense for him. But, and the final thing, Garrett Temple's doubtful Tuesday, and Kelly Olynyk, Bruce Brown, Jacoby Walter all remain out. Carton, as well as Chomshay, are with the G League, and Giannis, Gary Trent Jr., and Andre Jackson Jr. are all probable for the Bucks, and Middleton is out. So, again, Gary Trent Jr. has missed a couple games. He's played himself out of the rotation. It'll be interesting to see if he gets some run, gets some opportunity against his former team, again, I'm a big fan of Gary Trent Jr., but things have not been going to plan for him down there with the Milwaukee Bucks. But, it's been a weird situation. This whole entire league, like, again, there's always injuries. There's always stuff happening in regards to the injury bug, no matter what team you're on, what team you're rooting for, what season you're watching, but it feels like this season has just been especially brutal across the NBA and especially for the Toronto Raptors. So that just kind of sucks to see, but there is another topic of discussion I want to dive into, and it revolves around some discourse I've been seeing out there amongst Toronto Raptor fandom and these types of things, and essentially, people are going at Darko Rajakovic's head right now, specifically for the defense, specifically for late game decisions, and from what I can gather, from what I can bring up, people are frustrated at the fact that he's keeping Jakob Poeltl on the court at the end of games, shooting free throws when other teams go to foul, giving the ball to RJ Barrett to just yeet up game-tying, game-saving threes and things along those lines, and just overall feel and management of those adjustments. And it's akin to what people used to say about Dwayne Casey in regards to, hey, like, this guy can't make adjustments, he can't do this. That's why Nick Nurse came in and stuff. Like, Darko Rajakovic needs to be fired, you need to do this. And, like, whatever. Right? And then you could also point to the fact that the Toronto Raptors team, which is a legitimate, like, fair gripe criticism with this squad, if I get the right thing, we're also dead last in defensive rating. We're third to the bottom in terms of defensive rebounding percentage. So, or defensive rebounds out there in the NBA. So, the stats show that there are some issues on terms of decision-making, adjustments in terms of stuff on the defensive end as well. This Raptors team really struggles to guard people, which some people from the eye test might be like, why? That doesn't really make sense. We have some young athletes, guys that are amped up, ready to go and doing different things. Well, Jakob Poeltl addressed some of this in some recent comments, basically saying we're trying to be aggressive, to do the right things. We're just not good at it yet. Especially against experienced teams, they find loopholes. We're not good at adapting yet. And this is an interesting quote coming from Jakob Poeltl, because obviously he is and it's what I brought up in yesterday's video, and I knew people were going to start commenting on, like, they figured it out. Like, the Raptors didn't figure out winning yet. They certainly did not by any stretch of the imagination. We figured out how to lose. Close games, competitive games, we figured out how to take those L's whenever we need them. It's because we just pull Jakob Poeltl from the game, and then, poof, our leads just go into fairy dust. And the reason because of that is because Jakob Poeltl is the only real guy on this roster, especially the big man position, that can reliably, just positionally, be in the right places on the defensive end, have that impact out there on that end of the court. And again, we have some amazing high upside defenders out there on this roster. And a lot of guys have taken steps up. I mean, RJ Barrett's defensive improvement, Gradey Dick's defensive improvement. These are all things that are noticeably, there when you watch these games. It's a major, major leap that you're seeing forward. But they aren't there yet. They aren't there yet. There's always these weird adjustments. You can see communication errors, especially on, like, drop side helps. Teams are jumping in, Jakob Poeltl sliding into help side, and then there's just no one there for drop. And then you could throw those lobs, you could throw those dump off passes, and it just becomes a messy situation in terms of getting buckets. Or you get those immediate collapse, and you don't get that second side help. So all the corner threes are just able to be let fly. And then to make matters worse, we don't have a lot of big men outside of Jakob Poeltl. So defensive rebounds, we have guys stepping up out there on that end of the flow, like Mobo. Has been a huge surprise in terms of his impact early on in the season, but it's just, in terms of roster, in terms of youth, right? Like, defending at high school, college levels, you have schemes. Like, you have legitimate sort of things that you're running, doing different stuff, but at the NBA, at the pace, the skill level, the talent, how, every millisecond matters in regards to closeouts and getting shots up, it's going to have a much more serious impact. And Jakob Poeltl's kind of addressing this with his comments in terms of what's going on here right now. So, again, I don't think this is a product of Darko Rajakovic just being a bum head coach and not knowing how to make adjustments. And, again, it's maybe he's not great at it. And maybe there are some decision makings, and he's a young coach too. Like, he's his first season head coaching last year, which is filled with turmoil, filled with different things. Nick Nurse talked about it over the course of his Raptors career. He got better as his some might say that wasn't the case. I think the team got worse, and then it just got less of a fit for a Nick Nurse style of team. But over the course of a coach's career, they get better at that type of stuff as well. So throwing Darko Rajakovic under the bus because a team of, like, 23-year-olds and that was expected to be developing, that everyone said is year one of rebuild, aren't executed at a high level, but are developing really well, are taking their games, taking those steps up that we have been calling for, we have been hoping for. I think it's a little bit overblown. I think it's a little bit crazy. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about all this Toronto Raptors news. Anyways, you guys are the best. Subscribe to the channel. Thanks for hitting 30,000 subscribers. Appreciate everyone for doing that. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.